video, I am going to talk about the UML class diagram. First of all, I will explain what is a UML diagram. So, UML is standard for language specifying a visualizing, constructing, and documenting the artifacts of software system. In the other word, we can say it's a general purpose between development modeling language in this field of software engineering that is intended to provide a standard way to visualize the design of a system, and this was introduced in 1997. As well as we always normally say UML diagram, but the full definition it's standard for unified modeling language. You can see in here also this unified modeling language. This UML is different from other common programming languages such as C++, C, Java, Python, like those things, because the UML can be described as a general purpose visual modeling language to visualize, specify, construct, and document the software system. So although the UML is generally used to model software system, it is not limited with this boundary, and UML is not a programming language but tool can be used to generate code in various languages using UML diagram. UML has direct relation with object-oriented analysis and design. After some standardizations, UML has become an OMG standard. OMG means the Object Management Group standard. The purpose of using this UML diagram is that it is very important for the backend developers to get a clear idea of the software requirement, and they can easily visualize the software from this. There are techniques and notations we use in UML diagram. They are like use cases. You can see in here use cases, class diagram, state diagrams, and sequence diagram. There is an image. You can see this UML diagram. We can divide it into two separate parts. They are behavior diagrams and the structural diagram. Normally, behavior diagram we can categorize as activity diagram, state machine diagram, use case diagram, as well as interaction diagram. In the other side, structure diagram, class diagram, component diagram, object diagram, and etc. In this video, I am going to talk about the class diagram, so I am not going to talk about the other diagrams. So, when we talk about the UML class diagram, the UML class diagram is a graphical notation which is used to construct and visualize the object-oriented system. It means the class diagrams are most common diagram used in UML. The class diagrams consist of classes, interfaces, associations, and collaboration. Later I will explain what are those things. So class diagram basically represent the object-oriented view of the system, which is static in nature. The class diagram in the UML is a type of static structure diagram that describes the structure of the system by showing the systems. They are classes, their attributes, operations, and the relationships among the objects. First of all, I explain what is a class before going to the other section. So, a class is a blueprint for an object. It means object and classes go hand in hand. It means there is a combination of object and the classes. We can't talk about one without talking about the other. So that's why we take that object and classes go hand in hand. And the entire point of the object-oriented design is not about objects, it's about classes. Because we use classes to create objects, so class describes what can object will be, but this is the object itself. You can see in this image also, this is animal. We can say simply animal is a class, and there are objects. It means when we consider the animals, there are different kinds of animals such as elephants, bears, lions, monkeys, like birds, and many of things. So that's why we can say that animal is the class and the objects of animal classes. You can see in this image also. And this is another one, class. We can say car. Car is a class. As well as the objects are Audi, Nissan, BMW, Benz. Like that way we can separate a car into objects. I think you will clearly understand what is a class. Now there is an image also. You can see when we consider this example, dog has status. It means the color, name, breed, as well as behaviors. Behaviors mean methods. It means barking, eating, running, sleeping, like those things. An object is an instance of a class, which means you can see this is the base of class. You can see this is like a struct. Dog. Create instance object, which means from a dog we can create objects like different kinds of dog, which means lion shepherd, German shepherd, Rottweiler. Like that way we can create many objects. In here I'll show that. You can see here like this way. Now when we talk about the UML class notations, a class represents a concept which encapsulates state, which means attributes, and the behaviors. Behavior means operations. Each attribute has a type. Each operation has a signature. The class name is only mandatory information. In here, it means when we use the UML class diagrams, we have to use some notations to do that. It means you can see in this image also, UML class diagram is we have to do like this way. You can see there is a box with 3 parts. The first class, in the first class, it's name, which means we have till the class name. The other one is attributes, and the next one is operations or the behaviors or methods. You can see this image is I already zoomed and separated like this way. Here you can see first of all the whole box we say class, and it is divided into 3 separate parts. The first one, between the first one is the class name. We have to say the name of that class. Example, a member, whatever, car, or dog, or man, or anyone. After that, attributes. Attributes are like variables. It means first name, last name. When we consider a man has a name, like first name, last name, as well as a telephone number, address, city, and etc. These are attributes. We have to insert the attribute in here like this. Then we have to tell the behaviors or the operation, which means when we consider a man, buy items, eating, check out, like that way we can give some features, if not features, behaviors. That behaviors we include in this part like this way. This is the simple class diagram notation. When class diagram notation, when we use it, you can see here the UML class is represented by the following figure. The diagram is divided into 4 parts. Top section is used to name the class. It means, I say in the previous also, it means the name of the class. Here you can see in this example, name of the class is student. Then the second one is used, which means this one is used to show the attributes of that class, which means name, role, section, like those. Then the third section is used to describe the operation performed by the class. The fourth section is option, which means it is not needed, optional, to show any additional components. It means you can see this is an extra component. The main parts are these 3. Now, as well as the classes are used to represent objects. Object can be anything having properties and responsibility. Then when we talk about that class UML class notation, class diagram notation, in the previous slide you see there are some symbols like plus mark, hash, minus, like those. We will see what are they. In here you can see the plus, minus and the hash symbols before an attribute and operation name in a class denote the visibility of the attributes and the operation. It means when we write the class diagram notation, we have to tell the attribute. It means the symbol. It means you can see the plus mark. Here you can see in here also the front of the attribute there is a plus mark, as well as minus, then hash. Again, when we consider the methods or the behaviors, you can see a plus, minus, hash, like those symbols are available. The meaning of those symbols is the plus mark is denote the public attributes or operation. We know there are modifiers as well as access modifiers and unaccess modifiers. So the plus mark is we have used when it is a public attribute or a public operation. You can see this is a public attribute, so that's why we use plus mark, as well as in here this is a public method, so that's why we use another plus mark in here also. As minus is we use normally, it may be a private one. It means private attribute or a private method. and hash mark. You can see a hash symbol is we use to protected attributes. Even we know normally we use protected for methods as well as attributes. So those situations we can use that hash symbol also. When we talk about the relationship between classes, which we normally when we create in a software or an application, there may be many classes, not only one class. So there should be relationship between those classes. So UML is not just a pretty picture. If used correctly, UML conveys how code should be implemented from diagram. It means a class may be involved in one or more relationship with other classes. A relationship can be one of the following types. You can see there are some relationship between association, inheritance, compositions, realization or the implementation, aggregation, dependency. I will explain later what are those things. These are the some symbols, class diagram arrows we normally say for those things. These are some relations between association, inheritance, realization. It means how we draw. It means the relationship between those classes. If we assume that there is a class like A and class B, and class A is the super class or the parent class of the class B. So when class B extends class A, we can have to be. It means we have to use inheritance for that one. Then we can use this symbol, which means this arrow. Like that way we have to use. I will explain in later that one. So now when we talk about the step by step association. Associations are the relationship between classes in UML class diagram. I say about that in the previous also. It means they are represented by a solid line. You can see here. This is not a dash line. This is only a solid line between classes. Associations are typically named using a verb or a verb phrase with reflect the real world problem like that way. When we consider the database management system, when we create relations in that case also we have to create between the table one to many or one to one or many to many like that way. Like that way in this one also. In UML class diagram also we have to use like this way exactly one. 0 or 1. 0 or 1 between many. Asterisk mark like that way. One or more like this way. Order like that way we have to use when we use class diagrams. Then the inheritance of the generalization. And generalization also, inheritance is the relationship between a more general classifier or a more specific classifier. Each instance of the specific classifier is so indirect instance of general classifiers. Which means normally inheritance is a relationship. It means there may be a parent. It means there should be a parent class as well as a subclass. Then only they are having an inheritance. This is an example for inheritance. You can see this is a person. This is a class. You can see this is the class as well as these are attributes and these are methods. When we consider this one, you can see this is the parent class or the super class. We normally say when we consider in the inheritance, there may be a parent class as well as child class. You can see this is the person class and there are two objects between student and this. It means this is student class as well as this teacher class. All are person. So this is a parent class. So this is our child class. Normally when we draw UML class diagrams, normally we keep the arrow mark. You can see in here the arrow mark is normally we keep to the parent class side. Which means you can see in this picture also normally this arrow mark is focused on the parent class and these are child class. Like that way we have to draw inheritance. Then when we consider the aggregation, a special type of association. It represents a part of relationship. It means class 2 is a part of class 1. As well as these objects of class 1 and class 2 have separate lifetime. It means if I take an example, when we consider a company, there are employees as well as those employees having addresses. So the employee class and the addresses class separate. from their lifetimes. So that's why they tell in the aggregation, object of class 1 and the class 2 have separate lifetime. You can see in here also, this is the symbol we use for aggregation. But in the composition, there is opposite one, which means the both classes depending. You can see this is the symbol we use for composition, which means when we take example as an example, when we take a library contain normally books. If books are not in the library, it's never become a library, it's only a building. So there is a combination, which means one part is depend on the other part, and as well as the other part is depend on another part, like that. It means the books, if there are no books in that library, it's not a library, it's only a building. So that's why we say in compositions a special type of aggregation where are destroyed when whole is destroyed. So that's why I said the library, if there are no books, it is not a library. So that's why in here also they telling a special type of aggregation where the parts are destroyed when the whole is destroyed. The object class 2 live and die with class 1. It means that object class 2 is always depend on class 1, like that library example. The class 2 cannot stand by itself. It means without books, library also cannot stand by itself. So that's why, like those situations, we can use composition. Then when we talk about the dependency, an object of one class might use an object of another class in the code of a method. If the object is not stored in any field, then this is modeled as a dependency relationship. This is also a special type of association. This exists between two classes if the changes to the definition of one or many cause changes to the other, but not the other way around. Class 1 is dependent on class 2. You can see in here also, like this. Then realization. The realization is the relationship between the blueprint of classes and the object, containing its respective implementation level details. This object is said to realize a blueprint class. In the other words, you can understand this as a relationship between the interfaces and the implementing classes. For example, you can see in here, the owner interface might specify methods of acquiring property and disposing of property. The person and the corporation classes need to implement these methods. Here you can see in here also, corporations and the person have to implement, possibly in very different ways. This is the realization. This is the example for a UML class diagram. You can see here, these are classes, as well as you can see these attributes, the class name also. You can see the associations and the detail, it is one to many, like that way. Multiplicity, aggregation, you can see those things. It means we previously discussed part, you can see in here already used in this example. Now let's create a UML class diagram for a school management system. So when we create a UML class diagram for a school management system or whatever, it may be hotel management system, it may be a hospital management system or whatever, we have to use a tool for that. So you can see here there are many tools, UML tools, of course you can see here, Visual Paradigm, Start UML, UML Designer, Agro UML, like many of them you can see in here also. In this video I am using Visual Paradigm for that one. So first of all I open Visual Paradigm. You can see this is the software. So now I am going to draw a UML class diagram for a school management system. It's the given scenario for us. So I use here, you can see here diagram. First of all I select diagram. Okay, now I already created, click on this diagram. Then I have to select the new, because I am going to create a new class diagram. So first of all I have to search like this way in here. Now you can see class diagram is already got it. Now we have to select this next button. Then I select this one, blank, then next. Okay, then I have to I have to give a name for this diagram, school management system. So I give like this way, school management system, like this way. Then I have to, if I want to add the description, I can add here. At this moment, no need. I give OK. Okay, now we already started to create the class diagram. So first of all, I have to create the relevant classes. We have to categorize what are the classes should be added. So first of all, before we going to draw the class diagram, we have to select what are the classes and the attributes as well as what are the methods we have to include it in this school management system. So these are the classes I selected for this school management system. You can see the classes of school management system class diagram. Student, there should be a student as well as classes, teachers, admin, and test papers. These are the classes to included in this school management system class diagram, as well as the attributes are when consider the student class, the student ID, student name, mobile, email, and like those things, as well as they can consider the classes also, ID, class name, classroom, like those things. Then teachers, when we consider the teachers, the teacher ID, name, mobile, teacher email, username, as well as the teacher's password. As there should be an admin also, like admin panel. So admin having a, if the admin has an ID, admin name, admin password, then test paper, which means also a class. That class contains PID, P name, which means paper name, paper duration, paper class ID, like and those attributes. Not only that, in addition to that, we have to select what are the methods. We have to add this class diagram when consider a student. There should be get enrolled the student, then write exam, like those things. Then teacher, the teacher should have to, it means teacher has to prepare test paper, so that's why I create test paper method as well as mark attendance, check papers. There should be method. This a method, so that's why. Then prepare report cards, then declare result, like those things. Then when we consider admin, admin it is the main role in this software. So admin has a login process as well as logout method. Then he or she can add teachers, edit teachers, delete teachers, update teachers, and can add classes, edit classes, delete classes, as well as the student. When we consider, he or she can edit the students, add the student, like those things. Now we can design the UML class diagram for this school management system, because we already create what are the relevant methods, attributes, and classes we have to add to this school management system. So you can see here there is a class. So I click on this and I have to do like this way. Now I already create the class, then I will rename, so like this way. You can see here there should be a class name student, so I rename this one as student. Normally we write the first letter as capital when we using the class, so that's why I use like this is student. Then now we already create the class and we already enter the class name. Now we have to fill the attributes, so I add the relevant attributes in this way. Then I have to say when we consider a student, the attributes are student ID, like those things. So first one should be student ID, so student ID, like this way. Then another one, student name, student mobile, now we can add the attributes to this class. So I right click on here and now I add methods. So operations. Now I have to say what are the operations. In here you can see for a student class, write exam, get enroll, other methods we have to add. So I do like this way. One is okay, another one, write exam. This is only a sample. Now you can see this, that in the previous I already explained about that one, which means you can see here the minus marks and the plus marks. About these symbols I already discussed in the previous, so again I'm not going to explain about those things. Like this way I will create the other relevant classes also. Okay, now I already created the UML class diagram for our school management system. So now I will explain what are the things I included in here. You can see there are 5 classes. They are student class, teacher, principal, subject, and the class between the class name between the student class. Then when we consider about the student class, there are some attributes. You can see here, these are the attributes, as well as these are some methods, also some behaviors. In here you can see the these student ID, name, mobile number. Even normally those things should be private modifiers, so that's why I use minus symbol, and these are public write exam, like those things. So that's why we include plus mark, it's in plus symbol. Other one also same, others are also. Now when we consider about the teacher also, in here also you can see there are some attributes like name, mobile, email, password. Then there are some methods or behaviors, or it means operations, like this way. When we consider teacher in the school management system, he or she has to take papers, prepare report cards, declare their student results, prepare test papers, like those things. So that's why I create some methods to there. And when we consider principal is the admin, so that's why I use ID as well as username and password. In here you can see there are we already tell it means what is the data type, which means integer or string or double or whatever. So that's why you can see in here we already we already write the data type in front of their attributes. Then you can see in the principal also login, logout, add teachers, edit teachers, delete, and add it means the principal can add classes, add the students, update, like those things. You can see these are the methods available for that principal class. Then subject normally having name and the ID, as well as class also same like that way. This is the way how we create the UML class diagram for a school management system. As well as in here I think you can remember in the previous I already talk about the associations, which means they are represented by solid line between classes. You can see these are solid lines, these are associations, as well as you can see there is the number. It means it is exactly 1 or 0 or more. Normally in 1 we normally tell it is exactly 1, as well as in here you can see this is exactly it means 0 or more, like that way. I already insert the relevant association for the relevant classes. So this is the way how we create a school management system UML class diagram. Thank you.